So this is just you, right? But it went from you to 300, right? How do you start convincing people to help?
Well, it actually went from me to me plus, so at the start, I had left McKinsey, so I didn't have thousands of people working for me or with me anymore, and I had a very small local network, but I did have a very large family. So the first thing that I did was I enlisted all the kids. And so actually, our oldest literally wrote the guide for the French host families. Our second helped us think about the psychological support we could provide. Our third literally developed the website in a weekend from scratch. I went to go pick her up. I was talking to the Ukrainian consul, and I went to the bus station or the train station to pick her up. And I'm on the phone with the Ukrainian consul, and I say to him, we need a website. Emily jumps into the car, and I look at Emily, and I'm like, my daughter, Emily, she'll build us a website. Emily, meanwhile, is rolling her eyes, going, what on earth has my mother volunteered me for again? And so on the drive home, I explained to her, I'm like, sweetheart, this is what we're going to do, and we need a website because we have to convince the Ukrainians that it's okay to get on that bus because there's some human trafficking rings, there's lots of, rumors and so on and so forth. And so we need a website. And so she looks at me and she's like, yep, I'll do it. And so she literally sat down, and I brought her food, and I brought her caffeine, and I would take away the food, I'd take away the caffeine. And she literally did nothing else for 48 hours. I think she slept a few hours, but not much. I felt kind of guilty about this. And by the time she went to go back to school, she was 19 at the time, we had a website, and it worked on the computer and on the phone. My fourth daughter gave speeches to all the local rallies, all the local churches. She printed out these little forms on our printer and would not let people leave until they'd filled out, I'll give a can of food, I'll give a blanket, I'll give a bed, I'll give whatever they could give. Meanwhile, the younger ones, they learned how to speak Ukrainian on Duolingo, which actually turned out to be extremely useful. So we went from me to the family, and then we went to the broader community. And actually, one of the things that was amazing was to see the mobilization, was to see the solidarity, and the fact that people from all across, and we live in a village that isn't very wealthy, and people just started pouring in with donations and gifts.
So I like how in that growth, your first volunteers were possibly volunteered.
They were.
And then they endorsed, right? I mean, I have children. I know what eye rolls look like before they get fully on board. But how do people, was it through the churches? Like, how did people just start coming to your door? Was it?
So basically we had, there were a couple of rallies, we had a Facebook page, we had a couple of newspaper articles, and literally from the time that word got out that we wanted to do something, and we have a big farm and there are lots of barns, like literally for over a year we had one barn that was just full of vegetables and fruit and food, and one barn that was full of clothing, and one barn that was full of baby equipment, and one barn that was full of toys. And then later, as we started to move people into homes, we started collecting furniture. Then I had like 6 barns full of furniture. So yeah, it was quite remarkable. Like literally the spontaneous desire to help, and we provided a channel where it was easy for them to just come and drop things off. It was open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Anybody can come with whatever they wanted to give or whatever they wanted to volunteer and do.
So people really do want to help. It's just facilitating making it possible.